Hello, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we decided to get into the weeds of one of the most ugliest aspects of Scientology. One of the most horrific examples of why it is that we are protesting and literally calling out the most abominable thing that is a systemic practice inside of these hotels and commercial buildings. So today we're going to be reacting to Mike Rinder having a conversation with Leah Remini about how Scientology covers up crimes. So let's react to this video and contextualize what we see.
In between, but
Yeah.
we want to do at least one a week, huh?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, because I really love doing this with you again, and I also love the support and the people that have missed us, and how much joy that brings to them, brings to us, even though we're not
Yeah.
talking about anything joyful, but it brings us all some kind of joy.
right. Their joy brings us joy.
Correct. Thank you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I was so touched by the response to the first video that we did, and then that live one that we did, and the comments and the people reaching out, and then the comments afterwards. It's just been like, oh my God, it's so cool. We have a nasty subject today. This one happens to be,
Well, I'm glad that you are extremely overjoyed, Mike Rinder, over comments that you're getting and how that's really doing a lot for you. But do it for the right reasons and don't do it for the comments. Do it in support of survivors that you may or may have nothing to have done with the reason they got ensnared. In the 501c that you did prop up for yourself. So that's all that's being asked of you, to get excited over sharing the legal document, the affidavit filed, given to you as a producer of a show, that you do have a full-blown Emmy right behind you to prove our point. Because in case you haven't noticed, that's why you're getting called out. You were a full-blown producer on that show, and now affidavits have gone missing or are not being provided or are being provided with strings attached. Like, what in the hell is going on? Literally.
nasty and very raw.
Yeah.
Because of what happened in the Masterson case.
Correct.
And how that brought to the forefront incredible lengths that Scientology goes to with respect to keeping their flaps out of the public eye and away from law enforcement and authorities, and just how pervasive that is in Scientology. And that's, like, I've seen now, and I know you have, Lee, the responses from Scientology constantly putting out this lie: we don't have any policies that that prohibit anybody from going and contacting law enforcement, and we're the most ethical beings on earth, and we comply with all laws, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's lies. And, you know, in various places, I have put a lot of the documents that demonstrate how these are lies, but we're going to put them all together here. And while we will use excerpts in this video, I'm going to put the full document on my blog that is attached to this video, so everybody can see the entirety of these documents.
Asked you, and I've asked you many times, and people
Well, yes, we would love to see the entirety of those documents, Mike Rinder. And I think we would love to see you contributing to what's being asked of you. Instead of sending insulting letters about how we're all just a bunch of fleas, because it's giving you're still doing the same shit and you're using a different air freshener. In what world are you distancing yourself from having set up the system that was used after the IRS gave you all what you always were begging on your knees to have? So y'all could got the type of insularity you were looking for. So you all could have the type of protections you were all counting on being afforded as a result of having minus zero oversight, because you were purporting that, yes, convicted indicted felon L. Ron Hubbard was the person that you really did pitch as a full-blown American-bred god. How did the IRS end up with that pitch? Do you have anything to do with it or not?
people I think are still shocked, even though I was raised in Scientology. I was a civilian Scientologist, and you were a Sea Org member, so you were, an employee of Scientology in the paramilitary department of Scientology called Sea Org. So I asked you this even the other day because I'm still kind of coming from this now from a different perspective.
Paramilitary. Paramilitary. So in what world is a literal hotel a church? In what world is paramilitary and religion being intertwined and pitched all with a straight face? In what world were you wearing fake stolen valor uniforms to prop yourselves up so you could look real scary to the kids that you were abducting all around the world, to purport that, yes, the clownery of wearing stolen valor fake military uniforms was all it was taken to scam the kids that were not in on all of y'all's joke. It's a literal joke, pathetic joke. And the fact that the IRS bought your joke is what's being questioned today. In case you didn't notice, that's what's being questioned. Why did the IRS buy the joke? What is the IRS getting out of being in on this joke? That's what we would love to understand right now.
Perspective as a civilian Scientologist, not knowing the inner workings of OSA. I mean, I wasn't even aware that there was a course that people could do, a 6 to 8 week course as civilian Scientologists to learn how to destroy people's lives. So like any civilian who's approved by OSA could sign up for this course and learn how to go after Scientology's enemies. I didn't even know that there was such a course until recently. So I'm learning a lot from the other side and asking you questions. For example, in the Danny Masterson trial, it was the defense's side that brought a book into the courtroom called Introduction to Scientology Ethics book.
Right.
And they brought this book kind of like they thought it was going to be like a got you moment. I don't know why they brought the book in. And I asked you, from your perspective, why would they do such a thing, knowing that it says in the book that that Mesereau brought, I think it was Mesereau in the first trial, it says it in there that Scientologists, this is one of many places that it says it, but that Scientologists cannot report to the civil authorities. So I asked you, why would he do something like that? And why is Scientology continuing to assert that there is no such policy in Scientology. You said, explain it to everybody, Mike, from an OSA perspective.
Okay. First of all, I don't think that anybody who signed off on him putting that book into evidence had their brain screwed in right. I think that that was a terrible,
So you thought-
terrible mistake.
Okay, so you thought that was a mistake.
Yes.
That
And
Mesro brought to you as OSA
yeah.
and said, I'm going to, because actually it was Deputy DA Mueller who entered it into evidence, because it wasn't entered into evidence until Mesro brought it. And then the DA.
Right. Mesro brought it up, as I recall, and referred to it or read from it or something to make a point. And then
Deputy DA Mueller, he brilliantly entered into evidence. Now, as coming from the OSA perspective, because you were the head of OSA at one point, if a Scientology lawyer, Mesro is not a Scientologist, but he works for Scientology, brought this to you as OSA, you would say what?
I would say, do not use that. If there is a point you are trying to make by using that book, let's find the specific thing and just use that. That book is a compilation, Leah, of like 50 or 100 different Hubbard writings.
Okay.
If you go to the action, if you're trying to make a point, and I forget what point he was trying to make.
So you thought it was a mistake? You're really going with that? It was a big, grave mistake to literally cite the words of the indicted convicted felon, the advice that you all were under the spell, the advice that all you literally read to give yourselves the entitlement of obstructing justice, because that's all it took for L. Ron Hubbard to write it on a piece of paper to never report a Scientologist to the civil authorities. And you think that was a literal mistake? You cannot even help yourself, Mike Rinder. You cannot help yourself. Because in what world is it a mistake to contextualize the reason why all of these systemic institutional obstruction of justice for profit, that's what in the hell it was called, Mike Rinder, in case you do not recall. Let's remind you really quick. When a self-admitted felon admits to the felony, they are told that they will not be reported to the civil authorities. That is called working in bad faith. That is called literally writing on a piece of paper to break the law and then going ahead and breaking the law. So you cannot help yourself but make these, oh, that was not a good idea. And if I was the head of OSA, I would have never signed off on that. I would have never allowed for the truth to be put on the record. And that's why we are here. That's why we are literally here, because the truth has not been contextualized, has not been put on the record, because you, Marty Rathbun, and David spend a bunch of time propping up L. Ron Hubbard, convicted, indicted felon that he was and is, purporting that the ethics book, the compilation of writings of Hubbard from all sorts of places, supersedes the United States Constitution, supersedes the power and authority of the literal superior court of these United States, supersedes the power of any U.S. sitting president who isn't allowed to just willy-nilly hand out pardons to felons that have committed felonies that are state crimes. But what? Y'all's auditors doing a 2-week course inside of a hotel taught by L. Ron Hubbard all of a sudden have more power than the sitting United States president, who can grant pardons to whoever the hell wants to incriminate themselves, including, but not limited to at all, state crimes. So if the essay took place in the hotel in Florida, something that the sitting United States president could not pardon under any circumstances, your people inside of that hotel were granted that power. So make that make sense for us right now.
You know,
Well, he was trying to say that it doesn't say that. Now I want to read it to you, Mike. Do you have it in front of you?
which,
From the ethics book.
yeah, I do. I can
Yeah.
pull it up on screen even if you'd
Yeah,
like.
please do so. So this is what it says. So this is a book that all Scientologists, it's mandatory reading, mandatory understanding, right?
Yep.
But all Scientologists know this book.
And this is the excerpts from it.
Okay. And so what does it say about reporting to civil authorities?
It says reporting or threatening to report Scientology or Scientologists to civil authorities in an effort to suppress Scientology or Scientologists from practicing or receiving standard Scientology. And that is a high crime, a suppressive act in the world of Scientology.
Well, standard Scientology, practicing or receiving standard Scientology. Standard Scientology is these self-admitted felons being told that they're in a very safe space. The friendliest place on earth is what you and Debbie Cook and Marty Rathbun went with when you came up with a tagline for that Fort Harrison hotel. In fact, the friendliest place on earth. Make it make sense. It was the friendliest place on earth to self-admitted child abusers, for example. They were told that it's very, very safe to go lock yourself up there with including but not limited to at all a Natalie Galbiati, somebody like myself, somebody like the hundreds of other minors that were being used as pawns, that were being certified. So please, what is the standard practice in reporting or threatening to report Scientology or Scientologists to the civil authorities in an effort to suppress Scientology or Scientologists from practicing or receiving standard Scientology? Because yes, what a big tragedy that would be, that a self-admitted felon gets reported to the LAPD and then all of a sudden he's not gonna be able to receive the standard practice of paying money to y'all to get his self-admitted felonies laundered. That's what we would love to understand. What is that standard Scientology that y'all are talking about?
So a high crime in Scientology is what you can get expelled for, right?
Correct.
Okay, it's like the highest of like offenses in
Yes.
Scientology. So
Yes.
just going on this just staying on this line for 1 second. What in the F was this man thinking that we would all that the jury, everybody involved would be like, oh yeah, it doesn't say that. It does say that.
Well, what Scientology and maybe Mesro, if he knew enough, would argue is say, yeah, but it says in an effort to suppress Scientology or Scientologists from practicing or receiving standard Scientology. And that's not what we're talking about here. They were not doing this or reporting this would not be an effort to suppress Scientology or Scientologists. Well, actually, it is. In the mind and view of a Scientologist, reporting someone to civil authorities is absolutely, well, no matter what circumstances it is, is an effort to prevent that Scientologist from practicing or receiving Scientology. It
That's
just
what I'm
is.
saying. I don't understand even how this could even be distorted to mean anything else. We all have the same understanding. It is not something that we assimilated and we kind of extracted from the.
No, you guys, it's not something we assimilated or extracted. But in the mind of a Scientologist, in the mind of an L. Ron Hubbard protege, in the mind of an adult that reads a book, that pitches that everything is going to be washed out, that everything is going to get whitewashed, that everything's going to get laundered for a hefty price tax donation, mind you. Or if you're in the Sea Org, for, countless hours of slave labor that all of these PEDOSs got assigned to, because apparently washing a bathroom and doing disgusting physical labor inside of the hotels is all they would ever see as a repercussion for admitting in full, having their incrimination process be a full-blown religious. What in the literal hell could you even call that? A self-admitted coming and saying, I did this, I did that, I did it this day, I did it this other day, I did it so many times, etc., etc. In the mind of someone that committed criminal activity, it was a high crime to suppress Scientology. Nothing makes a shred of sense. Nothing.
It is told to every Scientologist, this is what LRH says. We are not allowed to sue each other or report each other to the civil authorities. We're not allowed to cooperate with an investigation into Scientology or Scientologists. This is not something that we just have come to understand. This is the law in Scientology.
Right. Absolutely.
I make a point about.
Absolutely, that is the law in Scientology. So, breaking news to y'all. Breaking AF news. The law of the United States should be getting followed. If these hotels are being given a free pass to be above the law, then by all means explain your deal with the IRS that did tell all of you, fine, we'll give you the 501c3 status that you've been begging, harassing, and intimidating us all about. But don't get caught. What was it? Committing crimes. Don't get caught doing that. Lisa McPherson almost, Mike Rinder, got rid of your fake propped up 501c, right or wrong? Because what were you being found to be doing? Covering up criminal activity. In case you didn't get the memo while you were working on that case. That is what the problem was. That's why you were almost about to lose your fake protective status, protecting your fake business model that is so indefensible and egregious AF that with a full straight face, you're still out there playing all sides because you cannot help yourself, literally.
How we learned this and how when we interviewed Jane Doe 1, just to give you an example, in regards to the Danny Masterson.
Right. Matter.
Yeah, matter. Okay, great. When Jane Doe 1 met with Julian Schwartz, who is the adjudicator of Scientology.
It wasn't a matter, Mike Winder. It was her RAPE that got covered up. So again, it's a technicality, you might call it, but why don't you call things the way they are? Why are you so pressed as to sound so professional and so distant with matters that you could not be any more firsthand informed about? but you continue to create all of this fake distance between you and the practices. That's what's being called out right now.
Ethics and justice codes for David Miscavige. He was also my ethics officer. Did you know that? He also approved me to be on the OT levels, Mike.
No, I didn't know that.
Approved me to be on the OT levels. You have to get approval from an ethics terminal in Scientology. They go through every folder that you ever had. And I probably had a lot of folders being a Scientologist all my life. And they go through every single piece of paper, which contains thousands of papers. And he had to sit through and look through every, report that had ever come in on me in my whole Scientology life.
Look how uncomfortable he looks, you guys. Look how uncomfortable Rinder looks as Leah is pitching him what he already knows firsthand. This is not breaking news to Mike Rinder, what Leah is telling him. He's perfectly aware of what Julian's activities were. He would be perfectly aware that people need to be invited. He would be perfectly aware that people's folders were being come through to be invited to do the Xenu OT levels, that Leah did get the eligibility and the invitation to participate in as a full-grown adult that she was when she was subjecting herself to this.
Anything I've ever admitted to, he had to go through each one and then approve me to go onto the confidential levels of Scientology.
Right.
Look at his body language. It just speaks for itself.
Right.
So it was good enough to go into the OT levels. Julian Schwartz was also.
And what else was discussed here? Because this definitely got cut off, so we wouldn't know.
Also in charge of Burbank, the daycare
Right.
cover up with the babies that were being molested by in Bridget's daycare. And he was also in charge of other situations having to do with Scientology and sex crimes. Julian Schwartz, when he interviewed Jane Doe 1, to drill this, this was drilled, right? So because nothing was happening, right? No Scientology handlings were happening with what he had done to her. And she was not even asking, but I guess it had come up that he needed to be reported. And he out all the references, all the L. Ron Hubbard references. And one of the basic references, like you have here, right, is the ethics book. I have the ethics book, Mike, if you want to see it. Do you want me to grab it for you? Or do you?
No, I got it too. I've got several copies of that damn
thing.
Okay,
yeah. So that book is pulled out, slammed on the table. There you go, slammed on the table. And that particular, so tell me what this means to you. If you report Danny to the police, can he do Scientology as he's banging on the desk? Then take a bunch of stuff called a demo kit that could be anything. It could be pens and paper clips. And I want you to demonstrate for me how if Danny is in prison.
Not very funny, Mike Rinder. Chuckling away as you are definitely uncomfortable being confronted on the stupidity of what is being discussed.
It suppresses his ability to do Scientology. Demo it. So you literally have to go. So here's me, and here's the police station, and here I am going to the police station. So this is asked of every Scientologist. Am I saying anything wrong, Mike? I mean, I go to the police station and I say,
again, why are you laughing? This is asked of every Scientologist. This is drilled into every Scientologist. This is the memos of a convicted, indicted felon that you were worshiping, Mike Rinder, that you were doing all the PR for, that you were all goo gaga for. So by all means, make this make sense other than chuckling and laughing and looking uncomfortable AF. I guess that's all you have to give.
Say, Danny Masterson raped me. Okay, and then Danny is taken away with the police, And so he can't be here at Celebrity Center or AOLA, and he can't read a book. He can't read Scientology. So here's Scientology. He can't, like, you literally have to demonstrate how you understand that concept, that law to be.
Right.
So there it is, you guys. The concept was fully demonstrated. They used paper clips. They used a demo to make sure that people understood what in the hell indicted, convicted L. Ron Hubbard, the felon that he was, that did type it for himself. Oh, never report anyone that's in these hotels to any civil authorities. And then he had his little minion protege here, Mike Rinder, go across the world and tell everyone, yes, look at this. Look at this. This makes a lot of sense. You, Mike Rinder, have a full-grown, developed, sophisticated understanding of the law. You were not a kid that grew up in Scientology and then never knew anything about the law. You had the best of the best attorneys on speed dial. And you are not a dumb man. You play dumb very well today. You use very, very nifty, crafty language to, create distance between you and the problem. But the problem would have never been if you were not around doing whatever in the hell you had to do to push and prop this up. So here it is, Exhibit A of you being told the facts and you laughing and acting extremely uncomfortable with all of your creative language that you do have for yourself, as if you're almost not a lawyer yourself, really talking about how, oh yeah, Mesereau really effed up and he should have never brought that up. He should have only just said this line and that line and should have never accepted this into the context of the problem. But you know what you really should go and look up for yourself again, Mike Rinder? The criminal always leaves clues, said L. Ron Hubbard, because the criminal does want to get caught, said L. Ron Hubbard, because he did say that man was basically good. And when he's committing crimes and doing horrible things, they keep leaving breadcrumbs so that they can come and get stopped. So I guess he was right about that. And he was right about you leaving all manner of breadcrumbs in the wake of what you've done. So take a look at that and take a look at your pitch and take a look at your body language. And you literally type for yourself how you're being so forthcoming, because you know what? We're going to analyze every single aspect of this video since it is coming handy. So leave your questions below, you guys. What are your questions you have so far based on what has been discussed? And we're going to tear this whole entire segment apart to get to the full context of what in the hell is going on. Thank you.